Conversations with Iris. Here's your host, my loving wife, Iris.
Hola, mi gente bonita. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to Conversations with Iris, the space where real talk, raw truth, and a whole lot of heart really come together. We're bringing you some of that Latino spice, flavor, fire, and flair because you know what? I believe that every story, what deserves to be heard. That's right. And before we dive in, I gotta take a quick moment and send some serious love to all my incredible listeners tuning in from every corner of this beautiful world out there. I got to give a shout out to Maple Grove, Minnesota. We also have Waynesboro, Virginia, Grand Canyon, Colorado, and Cebu City, Philippines. I hope I'm saying that correctly. If I misspelled, I am so sorry. But thank you. Let's keep building this tribe. One story, one laugh, one truth at a time. Make sure, of course, you hit download on my episodes, listen, share, and of course, subscribe. And hey, don't be afraid to give me some of that fan mail too. I sure love that. And remember, this is a little podcast that could. And of course, all the fan mail does matter. Now, I want to go make sure to bring you guys to your attention. You know how we do it around here. I don't just pull up chairs or just bring anybody to this table. Ladies, we're going to talk about one of the biggest problems out there that we as females go through. We're not going to be talking about yeast infections, but we're going to be talking about the dreaded UTI. Dun, 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 dun. Oh my God. But I also have to include men to this conversation too, because you guys also get UTIs as well, just a little different than females, right? But today's guest, I'm so excited, is a chronic UTI survivor with over 15 years. If she lived through this experience for such a long time, she is also a former lab tech who took her knowledge out of this petri dish and into a doctor's office because sometimes, you know what? You got to be your best advocate, your own advocate, because you know what? At the end of the day, people out there are not going to do it for you. So you got to do it yourself. And she also faced drug resistance infections, chased innovative treatments like Uromune and phage treatment, and build a care team brick by brick when the system just kept shutting her down. So that just sounds so phenomenal. And of course, she's bringing this conversation to life, but also shifting the conversation around women's health. So, whatever or whenever you're being dismissed by doctors, or you're being tired of being told that, hey, this is all in your head, or you're just trying to keep your sanity through all these medical sadness, this episode is definitely for you. So, please help me give a fierce and fearless welcome to Miss Mary Walter. Bienvenidos and welcome to the Conversations with Iris.
Wow, thank you, Iris. That's a lovely introduction. I'm so happy to be here today.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're with us today. And you are actually, talking to us from Nashville, which is very nice.
Yes, yeah. Other than the humidity right now, that's a bit of a beast at the moment.
Oh my God, I could only imagine. I'm over here in Florida and I completely convey. Oh my God, we deal with that humidity all the time. And
Yes.
Mary, I am just so excited that you're going to be talking to us about these problems and something that women go through so much. And we just like find resolutions, find options and all this stuff. But, before we like talk about this, let me ask you something. If your bladder could talk, what do you think it would say about your journey, like what you have been through or together?
It has been a wild ride,
Oh,
for sure. A very wild ride.
oh my God. I could only imagine because like I said, we women go through this as well, but men go through it as well. So we got to also kind of include them as well because UTIs affect everyone. And because you know what? I mean, when people hear your why, your walk, and your words, they don't just want to learn about your story alone. I just want to be able to feel this spirit alone. So let's start peeling back the layers and let's get into the heart of it, like your struggle, the strength, and what steps it took for you to become the woman that you are today.
Oh wow. That's 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 a lot to unpack, friend. No. No. Um Goodness. It has been a very, very hard journey because, you know, like in the beginning, it was like I would go to my gynecologist or my PCP or anything like that, and they gave me the whole, oh, some girls just get UTIs. There was never a let's talk about this, or let's get some more information, or maybe let's try something different. That was never the case.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened. And when COVID happened, I got really sick, but I had a UTI that like just would not quit. And so I had went to the doctor and they tested me, and when it came back, it was the culture on it was basically a raging beast already. Like, I had no oral antibiotics, and they were like, okay, we have to admit you in the hospital. You're going to be getting, like, I think it
Oh my
was
gosh.
21 days of IV antibiotics, which they only had me in there the first 4 or 5, and then they kicked me out and I did the rest at home. But it was such an eye opening experience because, I, me myself working in the lab, I took so much pride in my work, and I wanted to do everything as accurate and as best to my abilities. And if I had a question about something, I was not afraid to ask someone, above my pay grade, like, what do I do with
Yeah.
this?
Mm.
And to be in the hospital and have them gaslighting me because they were like, well, why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? And I was like, Miss Ma'am, I literally just discovered this, and I
Mm.
had no idea that this had turned into such a beast. And had the ride from there just got even wilder. I mean, I've been turned away by over 30 infectious disease doctors. I'm on my third and fourth urologist. I use two of them together, and I had to use the education that I had to go. Okay, I'm gonna have to try phage therapy. We're gonna go. I went to another country and picked up a
Oh
vaccine
wow.
to bring here. That was the Uromune, and
Mm.
because it used to be legal in the states or FDA approved or whatever, and then they put a brief pause on it back in 23, and under the guise they said that it needed more research on long-term effects. But this vaccine has been available in foreign countries. Like, it's from Spain. It's been there for decades. So
Really?
this is not new. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I was like, look, there's all this information. They have some long term studies on it. I wasn't worried about it. So I jumped on a plane and flew to San Diego and drove across the border. Went down there and met a
Wow.
urologist in Tijuana and got it and come back. And just, it's been an adventure. And I mean, it's been hard. There have been days where I have been mad at God, and I'm a Christian woman, and there have been days I've been mad, and I'm like, no, I got to keep praising Him, because that's what we do. We praise the Lord and just keep trucking through, because He is our strength. And when you get mad and you start when you get hung up in your feelings, is when you get in trouble. Um,
Mm.
and because, I mean, when you've got doctors that are turning you away, they're like, we can't help you. You are outside of our realm, basically. It's like, well, that's not good.
Yeah.
And
Like outside their scope, pretty much.
pretty much, yes. I mean, when I was talking to the infectious disease doctors, I got like one of four excuses. It was either, you are not in our subset specialty, like some doctors will, like Lyme disease, for example. Some infectious disease doctors only see Lyme patients, while I'm a UTI patient. So they didn't see me. Some of them said they were full. Some of them said they didn't take my insurance, even though their website said they did. And then other ones were like, yes, we will see you. Send us all of your information. And I would send them all of my information. And then a week, 2 weeks later, I'd get a call back from their nurse and they were like, no, we can't see you. And I was just like, really?
Mm,
So, I mean, that really gets in your head because, if you there's always, in the back of your mind, like you don't want a UTI to get worse because you don't want it to go to your kidneys, and you definitely don't want it to end up with like urosepsis where the bacteria is all over your body, because that can be fatal. And so,
yes.
yeah, so it's always kind of in your mind. And then hearing like, oh, you don't have any oral antibiotics left, you've just got these IV antibiotics, and it's scary. And just trying to have faith and trying to, like I said, keep using the knowledge that I have from not only years of being a patient but years of working in the lab, trying to use that, to my advantage, trying to just keep pushing through.
Of
uh,
course.
yes. Sorry, I
No.
didn't mean for this to be like a 10-minute long answer to your question.
No, no. I love it and I appreciate that you're giving us the background of what you went through. COVID hit, you were dealing with UTIs recurrently. I mean, you had mentioned 30 different, what is it, infectious
Infectious
disease
disease.
specialists. I
Yes,
mean,
ma'am.
you're and your third or fourth urologist on top of that. And then I
Yes.
definitely want to delve into this, vaccination called Urome. I hope I'm saying that right, but you've definitely been through it. And I know with that particular science background, I mean, overall, your journey has been deeply personal and you've been on that other side of the spectrum as a patient, right? So you definitely
Yes.
experienced that firsthand. So you were dealing with this. You said you went outside of our country to gain access to this particular vaccination. And I'm going to be fully transparent here and please excuse my ignorance, but this is the first time I've heard of your own. So can you teach us a little bit about that and what happened when you did get your hands on it?
So it's called Uromune, um,
Okay.
and it is a vaccine that goes. It's not a conventional vaccine in that like there's no needle involved. It is a very tiny squirt bottle, and you put 2 squirts underneath your tongue twice a day. And this vaccine is made to help your body develop an immunity to 4 of the more common bacteria that cause UTIs: Enterococcus faecalis, E. coli, Klebsiella pneumoniae, and Proteus mirabilis. And so you do this twice a day, every day for 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't see like you're not going to notice a big difference like in the first few weeks. um I have a few friends that have done it as well. We went together, we made it a group trip. And
Oh, of course. And that's how you have to do it today in this. It's better to travel in groups than being alone, right?
yes, yes. Well, it was just crazy, like the people that I have met having this, people that also suffer. um it Yeah, it's been crazy the amount of people that suffer from this and the lack of attention that this condition gets with the numbers the way that they are. But yeah, we a couple of my girlfriends, we went down there, we got it, we come back. um the one girl, she has like, if she starts to feel bad, she says that now by noon she feels better, like her immune system kicks it up a notch and knocks it out. um
Oh,
there was
wow.
another, like, yes, I was very impressed with that. there was another lady that I knew. She did not come with us. She was one of the ones that kind of inspired us to go. She had been on like four different oral antibiotics at once, and hers was worsening, and now it's completely gone. She went off of the antibiotics, and she was doing the Uromune. And as a little bit of time went by, I think she said by the end of the first month, she felt like she could come off of some of her antibiotics. And then as time went on, she went off more of them. And then I want to say it's been a year or more for her now, but her particular strain of Klebsiella was a very highly resistant one, and it actually mutated back down. There's resistance genes that help your bacteria to mutate to become resistant to antibiotics, and she
Mm.
had several of these genes on her particular bacteria, and it like they've all fallen off. The resistance genes are gone, and the bacteria is down to basically its base genome, and she's no longer having any symptoms. Um, I had a little bit of an issue with it myself. I'm going to do it a second time. Um, I got about 45 days in, and
Oh, wow.
I got about 45 of the 90 days in, and I got super, super, super sick, not because of the vaccine, something else entirely. And it did not even cross my mind to take it for like a month because I was nearly bedridden. So, when you miss that much time, on something you're supposed to take every day, it may or may not work correctly. So, for me, I don't feel like it did a whole lot, but like I said, I am going to do it again. It wasn't the fault of the vaccine. It was, I had to take a break in there because I got really, really ill and
Mm.
literally just forgot to take it while I was trying to survive.
So, and again, thank you so much for that overview and what you had to do to acquire this particular vaccination. Again, it's not in the US as of yet. Do we know if it's in the works currently right now? And, we have to deal with this thing we call FDA approved and all that stuff. So, where do we stand right now to get access to it?
Right now, if you want access to it, you're going to have to go to a country that has it.
Mm.
In the States, that would be your easiest bet. Excuse me. Got a frog in
It's
my throat.
okay.
Right now, the easiest way for a U.S. citizen would probably be to go to Mexico, to go to Tijuana, to a urologist and pick it up there. Um, Other countries, like Spain has it, I know, and I'm not sure what other countries do, but sorry, I can't get my
It's okay.
throat right here. Um, but I don't know. There are some vaccines that are coming down the pipe here in the US. And so I don't know if they are trying to hold off on like bringing Euromune back because they want to see what happens with the new vaccines, or if it's, it could have something to do with uh, research and things that have happened with NIH since the new administration come in and kind of
Right.
cut funding on some things. So I, really couldn't give a timeline as to when it would be available in the States again.
Mm. And let me ask you, I want to take it just a step back a little bit here because this is such a common problem with females out there. I mean, I've had
Yes.
them. I mean, they are recurrent. And I know that you have a lab, you are a lab tech, you have a science background as well. And there's so many different things that cause UTIs and there's so many things out there that, that we have to take care of it. Like People use Dimadnos. People use what
Hmm.
is it? Euphoria, cranberry
Yes.
juice. That's like an old school tale, right? Oh, drink cranberry juice. That's what our grandmothers
Hmm.
or moms would say. But cranberry juice sometimes is not enough. Or we could take over the counter the microbit. What we call what nitro, I think it's what it's called. That little brown pill that changes your urine color there. But from
Oh,
your
Azo.
yes, Azo, that's the one. That's
Mhm.
easier. Yes, ma'am. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for clarifying that. I'm not even going to try to get into that medical name there, but from your
Hydrophoria.
perspective, what do you think causes these dreaded UTIs? I mean, at the end of the day, and I'm just going to say this before I let you answer, they are worse than what we call, I hate to bring this up, ladies and gentlemen, but they're worse than yeast infections. But when you experience that, but what do you think causes them?
Well, that's kind of a multifaceted question. I Because what causes a UTI in general would, for females, a lot of it has to do with our anatomy. It has to do with how close our, vagina is to our rear end. And because, the bacteria that tend to cause these infection are bacteria that live in the gut, and sometimes that bacteria just, after you go to the bathroom, it makes its
Yeah.
way up there, and that's how you get an infection. But
Hmm.
the the thing that, or I mean, obviously, sorry, I'm getting bad sidetracked here. Or,
No,
you
it's
can get
okay.
it, maybe, if your bathtub is not clean, that's a possibility. um some people, oh, if you go swimming and you leave a wet bathing suit on, uh that can cause some problems.
Mm-hmm.
But the issue that makes the difference in the chronics versus the acutes is the people that are chronic, the bacteria lit once it gets in the bladder, it lives either, well, both. It lives in biofilm, and it lives in a in the cells, of the in the interstitial spaces of the bladder. Um,
For an
and
acute
that,
person, right? I just want to clarify. For an
oh no,
acute person?
that's for chronic.
For chronic.
Um,
Okay.
yes, for an acute person, the like the bacteria is free floating in the bladder. They take an antibiotic. The antibiotic kills it, and the infection is gone. Um, but some people, their bodies create too much biofilm, their bodies create too much fibrin, and the bacteria itself is going to create its own biofilm. So what happens is some of this bacteria, like, it gets in and it basically grabs onto the lining of your bladder, and then it has that biofilm over it. And think of that biofilm literally as like a concrete roof. You can't penetrate it with antibiotics, most of them anyway. And that's how resistance, that's part of the way that resistance is developed. But those little bacteria that are living so happily in that biofilm, they're in there just partying like little rock stars, and they start to multiply while they're in there. Well, instead of going up and out of that biofilm, they go down. So they go down into your cells and into the interstitial spaces, between your cells and your bladder, and antibiotics definitely cannot reach those. And those are the ones where it's like, I had a UTI like 2 months ago and it's back. It's like, you never
Look
got
at
rid.
that.
Yeah, you got rid of what was free floating in the bladder, and then, the stuff that is living beneath the biofilm, it's just snug as a bug in a rug in there. So
Mm.
that is how the condition of becoming chronic kind of comes to be.
Oh my God. And I could only imagine as a chronic. And then the fact that some people too let it fester so long that it travels to your kidney. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been there. I've been there. I've had a kidney infection, and it was not fun because of this UTI at one point that was just chronically just killing me inside, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you explaining the difference between from a chronic and acute perspective. And I want to take it back to you building your own care team because you went through, multiple doctors
Oh,
trying to find
sure.
solutions and,
Mm-hmm.
the system failed you. Again, you mentioned that. But
Yes.
what did that look like? And what advice would you have for women who are exhausted, but still trying to advocate for themselves?
Well, for one, I understand the whole being exhausted and trying to advocate for yourself. The one thing I would recommend is to find a chronic UTI specialist, a regular urologist. And I'm not trying to dog urologists, but they don't seem to understand um, a lot of essentially how this works. And like, I know if any urologist hears me, they're going to like immediately turn this off. And I'm like,
It's okay.
I,
It's your opinion. That's all that matters. So
you're
it's
right.
okay.
No. Well, it's the 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 chronic UTI specialists. There's several of them in the states, but you won't find one like in every state because they're hard to come by. But they will put you on. Some of them do long term full dose antibiotics, and some of them do antibiotics intermittently. Like they'll do 2 weeks of antibiotics and they'll stop and test, and then do 2 weeks of antibiotics and they'll stop and test. Um,
Mm,
I, but then there's a lot of they're finding now that there's a lot of potential root causes that can cause someone to be more prone to becoming chronic. So, like if you have Lyme disease, if you've had mold exposure, if you have any of the genetic anomalies that are on the descending side of the coagulation cascade, which is like if you have a factor 5 or if you have PAI1, um, any of those are your clotting disorders that make people more genetically predispositioned for like strokes and bleeding problems. So if you know, like, hey, grandma had a stroke, when she was
yeah.
55 type thing, maybe go get that checked. Just tell them you need a hypercoag panel, and which it would be better if you did that with your chronic UTI specialist because then they will have that paperwork. But things like this can really affect the outcome of treatment because you can throw antibiotics at it all day long, but if you're not working on the biofilms or working on the root cause or trying to find out, like, is it colonized in your gut, and just all these other factors, then you're just, taking a pill that's going to, wipe out the rest of your flora and possibly leave you worse for wear. Um, because long-term antibiotics, that's no joke. Um,
Yeah.
but what was the other part of that question?
No, 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 you're good. So what I asked, like, one of the things that, what advice, like for women that are trying to advocate for themselves, that what would you tell them about this?
um, don't give up, and like I said, look for a chronic UTI specialist, and if you can't find one, and if you are seeing a urologist, excuse me, do talk to them about possibly doing DNA PCR testing on your urine. And because, okay, so like I use myself as an example. My urine typically comes back negative on standard cultures, but that's because my bacteria is encased in the biofilm. Well, when they do the DNA PCR tests on me, they come back positive because it's literally looking just for the fragments of the DNA. So once you get all those pieces and put it together, you have a lot better idea of what you're dealing with. And this is a very, very new idea. All of it is very new, to be perfectly honest, because when I graduated college in 2007, that was for lab school. We were taught in college that the bladder was sterile.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yes, and it didn't come out, it wasn't published until 2015 that the bladder is not sterile, that it has its whole, it's called a urobiome, and there's bacteria that is supposed to be in there, and there's all these things that help keep it in balance. But it's when one of these pathogenic bacterias get in there and things get all out of whack that things get ugly. So I would say to advocate for yourself. Um, Find a doctor who will listen, that you can talk to about possibly doing, uh, you know, more specific testing, specifically like the DNA testing. And there's several companies that offer that now. Um, Shoot, even just a few years ago, there was just two or three, and now there's several. Um, so the doctor would have options if that's what they wanted to do, but just don't give up, and just keep at it, and try to keep your head up. And if you can get to a chronic UTI specialist, that would be better. I personally am all about the ones that want to do the root cause testing, because I feel like I don't want to take an antibiotic for years and then still have this, um, because there was something else that was actually causing it that I wasn't treating. Um,
Look at that.
mm-hmm.
Oh my God. And Mary, as we begin to wind down this powerful and eye opening conversation, and I want to again thank you for bringing up for our audience members, find yourself a chronic UTI specialist. Very, very important. And on top of that, do not rely on your sample or the culture test that they do. Ask for that DNA PCR testing on your urine. But I want to know what is next on your journey, and do you have any projects or advocacy efforts or wellness goals that you're trying to work on?
Well, so right now I'm the education and outreach manager for a nonprofit here in the US called Let's Talk UTI.org. And we've got so many goals. We are
That's awesome.
trying to get medical education caught up with the scientific research, because there are so many things that we know now, papers that have been published, things that we know but still aren't being taught in medical school. So we're trying to create continuing ed units, we're trying to raise awareness. We're doing all kinds of things to get our voice heard, and try to get more hands on, and trying to get us some more options, like the whole, having to go to Mexico to get Uromune. We shouldn't have to do that. That should be something that is an option here.
Correct.
I mean, the difference that Uromune could make, like if you gave Uromune to all of your, and this is totally just a hypothetical, like your people that were going into nursing homes. Nursing home patients, they get UTIs so bad and so often, and it's like, well, how much does that hurt the patient? How much of a strain is that on our medical system, when you could just give them this and watch the UTI numbers drop? And I don't
Yeah.
understand why we don't, but here we are.
Mm. Oh my goodness. And I know that you briefly had mentioned to our listeners there where they could somewhat find you with your nonprofit organization, but where else can our listeners find you, connect with you, through your story, follow your journey, or just support you in general regarding women's health?
I have a Twitter, and I believe it's Mary at Let's Talk UTI. But that's kind of my main one. That, and working with let's talk UTI.org. They've got my story on there, and I'm I'm on there doing stuff all the time.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I love it that you're involved with a nonprofit organization. And again, can you repeat the name of the nonprofit again for our listeners?
It's let's talk UTI.org.
Let's talk UTI.org. You guys heard that. And you know what, Mary? That was raw and that was real and so necessary because, like I mentioned, we need to talk about these issues more often. It definitely it affects a lot of women. I mean, we could sit here, be quiet, and the person in front of you might be suffering from chronic UTIs and you probably won't even know. So again, I want to thank you for showing up fully, for sharing not just your pain but your power. And I appreciate how you're helping so many women, just feeling that they're being seen now and just a little bit stronger about this journey. So again, thank you so much for being um, you know a guest on my podcast. Truly appreciate it. And for the audience members, if you enjoy what you heard, just share this episode, sit with it, and let's speak about something that maybe sparked inside of you. So again, we're trying to build bridges and bring healing to our souls. So thank you again, Mary, for joining us today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And as always, this isn't a goodbye. This is until next time. Con mucho amor. This has been Conversations with Iris. Thank you all.